I love you too. I love you so much. Good night, everyone. You know, every day don't be the same day. And tonight I'm not in the best sinuses and stomach and thing, but I can make it. Don't worry. But I have come here tonight, and I'm speaking early, confident that I have a team that can close this meeting. Confident that after me, when I introduce Tony Moore and Kerry Simmons, not a fella moving from here tonight. But I have also come here tonight because I had the opportunity on Friday to canvass up the hill with Tony and with Glenn. And Glenn Clark, where are you? Where are you, Glenn? I really want, you're looking like a young boy with this Tony Moore shirt on. Come, stop. You see what I mean? He's looking like a young boy with this shirt on. But I really want to salute him in here to the people of Market Hill and Bridgecourt and St. Augustine and all around Bel Air. And you know why? I have been in public life now for 31 years. Glenn, little more than me. But what I have seen Glenn Clark do in this campaign, every single day walking with Tony Moore, every single platform speaking for Tony Moore. And I have been around all of the by-elections. I have been around general elections. I have seen men and women transition. But I have never seen the commitment to cause, to constituency, to party, and to the successor that I have seen from Glenn Clark in this campaign. I am going to do something unusual because on Friday night, I will have the opportunity to be able to hand out to Glenn the highest award of the Barbados Labour Party, the Grantley Adams Award. And I felt that I had to share that with you, the people of St. George North, tonight. Because the award is as much yours as it is Glenn's. Because in him you saw a man who was committed to you. And you saw a man who never pretended to be God, but pretended that he would just simply, he didn't pretend at all. He just simply wanted to do his best. But what was more important, when I walked every house, every single house on Friday, Glenn could tell everybody who there, what they did, what they didn't, from the oldest lady in the community. I could tell you straight, from the body workshop right back down opposite Manny Crickendale. I can come right down and turn the corner and go with you. I can tell you and go down by the Wickhams in the bottom. And I can do that because of this man. And I therefore want tonight to speak to you. Thank you, Glenn. And I really want to salute you, as I said, because he deserves the Grantley Adams Award because he embodies. Thank you, Lord. He embodies what that award is about in terms of commitment, not just to party, but to country and to constituency. And as I said, you, the people of St. George North, took him as a young man. I know that because I was young too, like him. And you nurtured him. And when you felt that you needed to talk to him straight, you talked to him straight. And he took whatever correction he needed to take, and he continued to stay focused on you at all times. You know, it is a crying shame that he could still have to tell you. Have you ever heard an MP talk about so many unfinished projects that were started by him? And in every instance, the last government punished him, they punished me too. The road behind BIM in Friendship Terrace and Lowlands was signed with Rayside by Owen Arthur to do those roads, just in the same way that you heard Jerome and Glenn talk about the sidewalks. Not just going up to St. Augustine here. On the other side by the church that was never finished, or the sidewalks going up to Cuthbert Moor so that the little children could walk without fear of anybody knocking them down. But they did the same thing to me. They did it also in Canewood Hill. They did it to Cynthia Ford. And I'm saying to you that if nothing else, and this is why at Sheffield last week I spoke as I did about colors, red and blue and all of this nonsense, that the other side would want you to believe. This government has come to public life to right the wrongs of the last decade before we became the government. That is what you asked us to do. And that is what we have sought to do. And doing it does not mean that you can twiggle your nose and abracadabra overnight. But I'm confident that the people of Barbados understand that. And that the people of Barbados understand that there is a pattern and a course to life. Just as there is in public life. When we walk this road, there were persons who complained about the roads. And when we started to talk with them and to explain that we're going to get about to dealing with the roads, because we know that you had a decade of almost no paving of roads in this country. In the last few years of the Democratic Labour Party, a few weeks before the campaign, they rushed and triplane that they were putting some asphalt and Barbara Green in some potholes, but without the foundation, like icing on gingerbread, it washed out. Gone. And I am saying to you that when we started to explain to the people on Friday that there's a process, that we had first to make sure we had the money, and then we had first to make sure that we could get around with dealing with the whole issue of the debt restructuring. It wasn't the Barbados Labour Party that carried debt from 6 to 15 billion so that you couldn't get anything done in this country. And you were asking for it. But in spite of all of that, you've heard from Santia talk about the return of our students to the University of the West Indies and the community college so that your children and grandchildren, I met some up this hill on Friday who are now going to the university, one doing hospitality studies, one doing management. And the bottom line is that their parents now don't have to go into the pocket, especially at this time with COVID, to try to make sure that they can stay there. But my friends, I haven't come tonight to speak long. I've come tonight to make a few points. And one of them is to the people of these communities that we are bringing to you in Tony Moore, a woman who, like Glenn Clark, understands the essence of representation. And for me, it was a good thing to hear all of the speakers tonight. Cappy Greenwich, to hear Ian Goodenedgell, Kirk, Santia. Because in almost every speech you heard people remain faithful to representation and faithful to national development. Saying and talking about what would make a difference in your life. And I am proud to lead a team of people who understand that at every stage of this mandate, that we must be faithful to the people and deliver to make your lives better. You heard Cappy start to go through a scorecard for the government, not for me, for the government and for the people. And on Saturday, I will engage and tell them about the scorecard. Because all of this nonsense, you know, sometimes it is so easy to forget how much we have done, in what time. Just under 2.5 years, look at all of the things that have made your life different. Look at how you can now face this dreaded pandemic in a way that had we not done it, you wouldn't be in a position to do so. And instead, what we have, and I get it, I get a lot of it. What we have is all kinds of people wanting to distract. And the newspapers and the media have to carry them. Regardless of what they say, they deserve and must have equal access to the media. And we are the first to say that they should. We're not going to do like they did to the Barbados Labour Party and deny us access to the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. We don't stop them or their meetings from being broadcast or being covered in the news. But I know what it is to lead the Barbados Labour Party in opposition. And I know what it is to want to even buy time. And CBC refused to accept the checks. But all along, they weren't telling us that they were giving the Democratic Labour Party the time for free with a whole long bill that the Dems owe CBC and the government and never paid for the time that they had on CBC television. Abuse of power. If they want to talk about abuse of power, let us start talking about abuse of power. If they want to talk about corruption, let us start talking about corruption. But I choose in this campaign to focus instead at this point in time on your representation. Because at the end of the day, when you hear Tony and you hear Glenn and you hear the others on this platform, you hear Jeffrey, all of us talking, Santia, about things that matter to you, Ian. And the bottom line is that on the other side, understand them. Don't get angry, understand them. If you have nothing to talk about, you will snatch at straws. You will snatch at straws. And let us start with Joe Atherley. In this last week, he wants to know whether the Electoral and Boundaries Commission will be ready for the election. It wasn't us who refused to appoint the last EBC for months. And that is the only reason that the Boundaries Commission time comes up now on November 2nd. But what we know is that the government has already discharged our obligation by nominating the 3 members that we are entitled to nominate under the Constitution, and I will say it publicly. And we have sent those names to the Leader of the Opposition for his consultation and are now simply only waiting on him to send his 2 names. Now, whether he sends them or not, our 3 will go forward, because that is how the Constitution is written after we consult. But if all of us do our duty in time, Her Excellency will be in a position to sign the instruments, and there's a seamless transition. But apart from anything else, the Commission does not run the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. There's a Chief Electoral Officer, and there's a Registering Officer for St. George. But when you say these things, you're intending to create doubt in people's minds because you can't address the real issues of the people of St. George, because you don't know the real issues of the people of St. George North or St. George South for that matter. And I understand Joe's difficulty, believe you me, because he still cannot forget the fact that he signed the Barbados Labour Party manifesto that we are reporting to you every night on this platform. Progress, progress, progress. So I don't get vexed when you understand where a man stands and why he is where he is and how he got where he got. You don't get vexed with him. You know him. You understand him. You park him one side and you say, poor fella, left him there. But then the other side, snatching at straws too. And the politics of desperation has come in. Now I get it, you know. you have nothing to recommend yourself to the people of St. George North. Your party cannot recommend themselves to the people of St. George North. Your party cannot go around the corner and explain to the parents of the children walking to Cuthbert Moor why there are no sidewalks. You can't go to the congregation of St. Augustine and explain why Glenn Clark was able to do the sidewalk on the other side of the road but can't do it by the side of the church. You can't go in the glebe and explain to the people there, you say you love sports, but you didn't touch the pavilion for not 1 year of the 10 years. And then you leave an empty treasury. Well, we have fixed elements of it. And when November came last year and we finished the final foreign debt restructuring, we started to cast our eyes on the capital projects, the roads, the buildings, the pavilions, the accident and emergency, the David Thompson Polyclinic that will give you, the people of St. George, choice whether you want to go to the east and get the service or whether you want to go down to town. You didn't have that under the Democratic Labour Party. But I'm saying to you that if they can't come and recommend themselves to you on these issues, then all they are going to talk about is to talk people's name and then to clutch at straws from this campaign. And let us get it straight. Delisle Bradshaw, and every night you continue to see elders on this platform, it is not our fault that the Democratic Labour Party cannot call on their elders to come and speak on their platform. It is not our fault that they continue to have problems with their own. But Delisle himself admitted to you that the manner or the turn of phrase that he used may not have been the most appropriate and that he could have phrased it differently. He said so. And there are other things going around that make it absolutely clear that what Delisle Bradshaw was speaking about was not anything about ridiculing any class of person in this country. He never said that every cricketer was an idiot. Let's be clear about that. So to be able to jump and say that he is attacking Gary Sobers and Sir Garfield Sobers and everyone else is a nonsense. But I go further. Even if you felt that he shouldn't have said what he said, understand, as Oluwaran, welcome Kerry Simmons. Kerry, you're going to bat your hand tonight. Understand that what Delisle was doing was pointing out to you that fundamentally the choice about electing someone to Parliament is not about whether they're going to be good on a cricket field. We are proud of our cricketers, have always been. But that does not make them the right person for election to a job in Parliament, which has a different set of skills to representation. And the problem is that they consider, they see the word D-E-B-A-T-E. D-E-B-A-T-E. People who can read understand that it says debate. People who may not be able to read will drop off the E and only see debate. Now you and I know that when we go into Parliament, we're going to debate. And when we go into Kensington, we're going to see debate. Both of them may be in Bridgetown, but one next to the Corinage and one next to the Shallow Draft. So if anybody needs directions as to where you go to debate, let me help and show you where you go. But as you go down the road to want to debate, Tell the people why the sidewalks ain't done. Tell the people why the pavilion ain't done. Tell the people why all of the unfinished business in St. George, down to even where you pronounce and you show the man as your candidate. You heard me say in the Glebe 2 Sunday nights ago that they got confused between St. George and George Street. Now, I want to know how in one campaign you can't get George Street and St. George separate. You can't get debate and debat separate. Well, we got a basic problem with reading and understanding. And if I were Floyd, I can't tell him what to do. But if I were Floyd, I would pelt away the speech and talk to the people. Talk to your people. Because whoever writing for you, using words that's so big that I know you come from Cave Hill. I know you work at Cave Hill. But the truth is, the words that you're even using in your statement today got some people to wonder, but wait, what they're really trying to say here? And who really write this? More importantly, can somebody read it for me? Because I don't understand what is going on here. Now, I could talk and talk, but the point that I want you to recall and remember, my friends, and I'm not talking long tonight, but the point I want you to remember is that fundamentally, all Delisle Bradshaw was doing was trying to tell you that there is a difference between the criteria for election to Parliament and the difference between the criteria for election to a sporting team. But if Delisle even wanted to go further, and he wanted to speak about the record of sports, he could tell you too, because he was an excellent minister of sports. But I come now to more recent times, because it is the Democratic Labour Party that sought to reduce the funding and importance of the Sports Council in this country. It is the Democratic Labour Party that never saw it fit to be able, as you heard from Glenn tonight, to be able to fund the women's West Indies cricket team in the World Cup for cricket here. And it ended up going to Antigua in spite of the fact that you had 7 Barbadians on the team. 7 Barbadian women or more. In fact, I think I may be wrong. I think it's the men that have 7s. I think the women had 10 at one point. And all of that was ignored by the last government. Stephen Lashley was the minister. Frandel was the prime minister. Verla was a member of the Senate. And as a woman, never opened her mouth once to be able to ask them, why are you not allowing Barbadians who are world champions in the T20 to be able to play here in the World Cup for women's? But I go further. The very first task that I executed as Prime Minister after the day when Dale and I got sworn in the Friday on the 25th of May. Oh, Lord, you can't even know it coming. I turned so, and I didn't even hear that something coming. Purring through again. Purring through. This is the first time you can talk to people across the street now without worrying about the buses coming through. Ian, thank you. But the very first task that I was involved in when I got sworn in as Prime Minister and Dale as Attorney General was to sign the document, the letter, to commit to Barbados hosting the test match for the West Indies versus England in January of 2019 in Barbados. And it required, or February, it required a signature and a commitment of funds. And we said, not only are we doing it because we are proud of Jason Holder and his boys, Abidjan again, but also we knew that we would get about 6,000 English tourists coming to Barbados. And that if we didn't do it here, in the same way that we lost the test for the women, the finals, to Antigua, we would lose that to Antigua as well. So when they want to start to talk about sports, let us talk. Because their record in sports is putting Colin Spencer, a former candidate in this constituency, When you rejected Colin Spencer, they sent him down at the National Stadium to preside over the dilapidation and the removal of the roofs at the National Stadium. In my constituency. And all he did was to preside over its dilapidation. But the only difference between him and Verla is that one was at the stadium and one on George Street. Both political night watchmen presiding over dilapidation. The only difference is location. So don't get tired. So my friends, I have come here tonight to simply say to you, the people of this district, that I want you to recognize that we are bringing someone special. And you know, over the course of the last decade, and today, you see, life is funny. Today is 10 years I was removed as leader of the opposition. But I understood and I learned from what happened. And I humbled myself. And I went among you. And I worked with you. And I learned. And I would say to Verla, simply take heed. Because you are trying to do things and to cast all kinds of statements that have nothing at all to do with the representation of the people of St. George North. You want to believe that this is a referendum on me. The people of Barbados will have their chance at a referendum on me and the Labour Party when we come in a general election. This is not a referendum on me. This is an opportunity for the people of St. George North to get unfinished business finished and to get a good representative. They had a meeting tonight. This is also the week that 10 years on Thursday, David Thompson died. But you don't hear them call David Thompson name no more. They are so much in mayhem and fighting against one another that they forget even the things and the people who brought them to a certain place. So when I say to you that the politics of desperation has taken hold, and you know, people ask why you call a 6-week campaign. Well, I call it because the people must get to know you. The people want to hear you. The people want to hear Tony just as they want to hear all of the other candidates. And I ask you tonight, the people have not heard them on issues either local or national. And when they want to talk about local and community sports, I remember that there was a man called Franklin Stevenson who ran for the Democratic Labour Party. You remember him? Now, if you want to talk about a community sportsman, let's talk about Franklin Stevenson. Franklin Stevenson has an academy, a cricket academy, and he takes young boys and he allows them to learn cricket. And many of them move to the highest levels in this country. Franklin Stevenson doesn't do that because any government put him there or the university. He does that because that is his commitment to the people of St. James first and foremost, and then the people of Barbados. We don't even hear them talking about the other issues. And forgive me if I say tonight, Santia, I know you have a meeting tomorrow with CXC. And I want to say this. What has happened to the children of the region is not right. I don't know what the report will say, but I do know this, that many of the children who are asking for a review, their parents cannot afford to pay the price for that review. And Santi, I know that you have asked for a waiver, and we have not heard back an answer. But Bajans don't beg. And therefore, tomorrow, you will tell them that the government of Barbados will pay for the review of all the children who need a review in CXC. There was a letter. There was a letter, and I cannot release it because it is not mine to release. But there is a young man, I can call him a man, but you know him well in this country. And he wrote a letter to CXC, And he copied it to Santi and he copied it to me. A young Barbadian. We took a lot of lashes for him too. Because when he spoke at a march in town in the Lower Green, they quarreled with me and said that I should never put him on a platform at that age. As if David Thompson was not involved in platform politics from a young age too. But people's memory's short. His name is Khalil Kothiwalda. And this young man wrote a letter to CXC that is as good as any letter any of my ministers or myself could have written to outline the issues to CXC. And you may have a time, it is not mine to release, but you may have a chance one day to read it. And when you read it, you will say, this was written by a teenager. This was written by a young boy. This was written by a young Barbadian boy. And I hope that he has it in his heart to release it to the press. Because you will begin to understand the seriousness with which we engage from this platform. There are times when I can make mock sport. There are times when we can dance. There are times when we can talk. But for the most part, we are here to make a difference in your lives. And when things don't always go right, when you run a government, you will find that sometimes there are things that happen in the government that you find out about. As I said when I was Attorney General and when I was Minister of Education, you cannot guarantee that people will always do the right thing. But you guarantee that when you find out about it, that you will do the right thing when others have not done it. And that is what leadership is about. So my friends, I saw that in Tony Moore. Tony may not agree with everything with us on every single issue. There are members in the parliament who don't agree on everything. But we know that the fundamental issues that bind us together, that we agree on, that we must not put workers on the front line to take lashes as if nobody else in this country can bear burden or bear the adjustment. In 1991, January, there's a shop that used to be somewhere around here, correct? The shop that burned down, I know. You know how I know? Because in 1991, I stood here on this side of the road as a young candidate. Henry Ford and the platform was on the other side of the road right there. It was the night that many argued that Henry Ford lost the election and his route to being Prime Minister of Barbados came to an end on that night. That was the night that Henry got up and read to the country. He didn't read a speech. He read from a letter about the fact that the country was in negotiations with the IMF then, and that we would have to send home thousands of people after the election. And the Dems called Henry Ford a liar. Market Hill will forever be etched on my memory because of what happened in 1991. And within less than weeks, they had to admit that Henry was right. And you know why Henry never went further? Because Henry Ford did not want to release the source of who told him that the government was already in discussions with the International Monetary Fund in January of 1991. In that same campaign, in my constituency, by Friendship, by Huddersfield Turning, the Dems had a meeting. And Sandiford said in that same campaign after Henry spoke at Market Hill that it was a lie to say that the government would send home 4,000 workers from the public service. And it was a lie to say that they would cut people's salaries. Well, you recall exactly what happened. 4,500 people were sent home. and your salary was cut by 8%. Now, I bring this issue to you because only a few nights ago, Glenn Clark reminded you of the same Democratic Labour Party who told you that a manifesto for them is not a social contract. Well, my friends, check me on Saturday and see me report to you what the social contract of the Barbados Labour Party's manifesto is about and our record for the last 2.5 years. And it is for that reason that I wasn't looking for a beauty contest when I was looking for a candidate for St. George North, even though Tony looked better than all of the ones out there and running against her. I wasn't looking only for somebody whose navel string was buried here, but when it buried here, you have to have a relationship with the people. Tony may not want to tell you this tonight. There was a young man on this same road here in Bridgecourt on Friday. And at first, he was a little thing about the roads and thing. And he talked to me afterwards. And he talked good and explained himself. He saw her yesterday again. He said, but you know something? You don't even know that you know me. I collect garbage out by you in Venture. And 3 times in the last few months, you stopped and slowed down and spoke to me and didn't even know who you were speaking to. That is the woman who I'm going to bring to this platform now. Tony Moore is the real deal. And if you didn't know it before, those in St. George North, as she moves through district by district by district, are getting to know that she is the real deal and that she has not gotten to be General Secretary of the Workers' Union or to remain there by just wanting to or by somebody keeping her there, but because she delivers representation to the people of the union, and she will deliver it to the people of St. George North. So my friends, I want you tonight. I haven't had a chance to introduce a candidate in a long time. I want to introduce Tony Moore tonight. I want all the members of the Labour Party to see that I am too big to introduce somebody up here. And I want her to come to this platform now. Bring her on for me, because she will be, with your help, the next Member of Parliament for St. George North. And next Sunday night, next Monday morning, when we start and she is officially nominated, then you will see that we go into the final stages of the race. Everywhere she goes, she is surrounded by a team of enthusiastic young people from this parish. I can't tell you about the others. I can tell you about Tony Moore. I can tell you that we want more. We want more. We want more. We want more. And you shall get more in St. George North. Tony, come on, girl. If I was Grind, I would have